Hi everybody, happy Friday. I'm sorry I wasn't able to communicate last Friday. I think a lot of us were not able to communicate last Friday. I continue to struggle, I think like everybody does, with the renewed gun debate in our country, and I know there are people on both sides of the issue that are just screaming and yelling, and I really try. I keep my personal Facebook page public. I encourage polite discussion from people on both sides, and I have someone on my page who keeps taking my posts and sharing them on his page, which is a far right, crowd, and screaming and yelling and cursing and with the more liberal posts that I tend to put, and I keep thinking to myself, how do I respond to this? How do we change the dialogue? And we have the head of the NRA, screaming, which is not helping. And I will tell you, I watched the CNN town hall. I grew up in South Florida, and a lot of the people that are in this community are people that I grew up with or grew up in my community, and then Parkland was, as urban sprawled in that direction, this town was created, and the road that it sits on is Pine Island Road, and I remember Pine Island Road being, this 2-lane road with a stop sign, and so, kids that I grew up with that, moved, grew up and moved, and, Max Schachter and his son, and Max's mom taught Sunday school, so, there's a lot that's part of all this, but I was so intrigued. I don't want to use the word impressed, but I was so intrigued by the woman from the NRA, the spokesperson that they sent, and I thought it was, smart that they sent a woman, a mother, to be more relatable. But I was so intrigued by the things that she said, and I didn't agree. I'm not saying that I agreed with all of the things that she said, but what struck me was her energy, that she really was calm, and because she had to know she was going into the lion's den with that, and what really struck me is that she was calm, but also that she listened, and I feel like if we're going to make any kind of a change in the conversation, that's where it has to start. And I know that I've talked before about the battle that I personally feel between my human mind, which wants to scream, enough, we have to protect our children, enough. And I still have a kid in high school, and with one more year to go. But then again, you look at, Virginia Tech, I mean, there's, one in college too, and it's, there's no guarantees. And I think the first thing that we have to do is to stop screaming at each other. And, I keep throwing my hashtag out there, love is the way forward, love is the way forward. And, I don't know if it's mine, but it's one that I grabbed onto, and want to really use that. And because if we can't stop screaming at each other, we can't ever come to a conversation and remember that the priority should be to create harmony in our world, and we don't get to harmony from screaming. The other thing that has really been coming to me is the part about how we make soul contracts before we come to this human life. And I don't pretend to know what kind of soul contract this shooter had with his self and with his people around him, his family, before he came here. But I suspect, and Toby agrees, I suspect that part of it had to do with experiencing anger and hatred. And I don't pretend to know that the soul contracts of the 17 precious lives that were lost had something to do with early loss or, extreme loss and so I don't think we ever know. And I think it's until, we're back in the world of spirit. And I think it's hard for me as a medium. And I talk to people in the spirit world every day, it seems. And, no one ever says, oh yeah, I let myself get shot because, that was part of my soul contract, and I came here to experience this, or, my mother and I agreed that we were going to experience, trauma, and so that's not the part that I get. The part that I get is the love. And today and yesterday I was so blessed to just spend some profound time with people that was all about the love of their loved ones. And, one woman's family just made me laugh, and one woman's family made me cry. But the message was clear. Love is the way forward, and love survives. And I think back to the movie Ghost, and, I love Patrick Swayze. I mean, who doesn't? But, and it's such a cheesy line at the end of the movie where he says, the love you take it with you. But it's true. It's true. I, have so many, connections that I've been able to make and through this work, and to be able to hear from people on the other side that, say, I'm sending you love, I love you. It's all based in love. And so I think the message that I want to share today really is, about love. So as we go forward, because this is going to be a long and frustrating and dramatic debate in our nation, and I am very, very pleased, though I'm not a fan of our governor here in Florida. I am very pleased to see him come out today and endorse raising the age that you can purchase a gun in this state, and increasing the background checks, and banning the bump stocks. And so it's progress. And the biggest problem I think that we have is we don't have consistency in our nation for certain laws, and it's a problem in a lot of areas. But I really believe that as we move forward, it's so easy for tempers to flare. It's so easy to be angry, And for those parents that are struggling with this so deeply, we have no right to tell someone else how they could or should feel. And grief takes time. It just takes the time that it takes. And senseless loss and sudden loss is so jarring that it just takes time. It takes so much time. And anger is justified, and frustration is justified. But to reach inside and find that place of love, to send love to the families, to the survivors, to the students that risk themselves to save others, for the parents who are grieving, for the friends that are grieving, to send love. I had the opportunity to write a letter. One of the teachers, and I wish I knew where that post was, but if you see it, one of the teachers had asked for letters, if people wanted to write letters that could be given to the students, to welcoming them back to school next week, to say, we love you, we support you. And I was just, crying as I wrote this card to some unknown student at Stoneman Douglas High School, to just let them know we're with them, and we're so proud of their courage and their strength, and we're sending them love. And I think that's really the thing that moves people's souls. And so what I've noticed is that on this person's webpage, Facebook page, where I share my feelings of love to his screaming, is that a few of his people have liked my comments. And I think that gives me hope. It gives me hope that, we as a society are evolving. I love this school of thought, and I wish I could remember where I learned it, but I love this school of thought that is about the chakras in society. And it talked about how in the early part of the 1900s, as a community, as a society, especially in this nation, we were in the Industrial Revolution, and we were walking through... Hi, Dylan. And we were walking, building cars and skyscrapers and roads, and we were building cities and expanding out into the west of this country. And we were really in the root chakra of our peoplehood as a modern society, and with home and where do we live and how do we pay for things and all of that, food and shelter and all of that. And then as we got into the 50s and with rock and roll, and the 60s with free love, and the 70s into the crazy clothes that became into the 50s and 60s and the sacral chakra, which is our emotions and our connections with people, our relationships with people, and love, and then into the 70s with expression, and the 80s and into the solar plexus chakra, which is the expression of who are we. Your solar plexus is all about self-esteem, your self-identity. Who are we? And crazy fashions of all kinds of shapes and sizes. But then as we got into and then into the 90s with and I think the 80s comes into the heart chakra as well, where we're talking about freedom of expression and equality for women, and the women's movement really gained force, and we saw just this massive expansion of our economies and expansion of industries and expansion of just really the 80s was this, whether they say the 80s was about greed, it was really the expansion of everything into the heart. And then in the 90s was all the grunge movement and saying things, and rap came on board and really speaking the truth, and even it was hard to hear, and we had a lot of that into the throat chakra. And I feel like we're there. I feel like we're still in that place right now where we as a society are really struggling to speak, and that through the time, things that have been, unspeakable and not, that were pushed down, that we think that we feel are bad, racism and inequality and bigotry and all of these things, and we push those things down, and now they're all bubbling to the surface into the time of the throat chakra, that they're all coming to the surface, and all of these things are spewing out of our society. Hate and war is increasing, and ISIS and all of this strife globally, not just here in the United States, but global strife. And now we have this, spewing out of the throat chakra, and I'm the next part is going to be the third eye, where we start to know that that there's more, and we're already seeing a lot of that because it doesn't work as a switch. Society doesn't move on a dime, and so we're already seeing a lot of that with the raising of the vibration of people like me and the people who come to see people like me. So it's oh my goodness, my phone's going to overheat and I may have to get cut off. Oh. But so I feel like we are evolving, and that we are moving into a new direction that is a higher mind base, that is about the society realizing that there is something more that's going on, and that there is something, the illness is coming up so it can be dealt with, and hopefully dealt with love, and that then we move forward into the era of the third eye, and into knowing that there is so much more to the universe and to us as we go forward. And this makes me so very happy and hopeful, even as I'm heartbroken for what's currently going on in our society. I remain so hopeful about where we are going and what we could accomplish when we get to the next phase of our human development. And so I just encourage you to stay in the place of love, to lead from a place of love, and to keep that faith, because no matter what happens, every soul, every energy, every spirit that I get to speak with on the other side, it's all about love. And so love is the way forward. And when you get overwhelmed, because, I can't leave you without telling you to go touch a tree. So when you get overwhelmed, go outside, put your feet in the grass, stand, and just breathe and feel that energy from the earth to come up and wrap around your ankles and hold you steady and hold you safe. And if you get the opportunity to put your non-dominant hand, so if you're right-handed, use your left hand, put your non-dominant hand on a tree. Trees have wonderful energy. So when you get a little overwhelmed, take some deep breaths, go outside, stand in the grass, and touch a tree. Have a great weekend. Thanks for being with me. I would love for you guys to make comments. I love the comments. I love when you share with us what things that you are doing to spread the love during these tumultuous times. Have a great weekend.